Hello, admins. How we doing today? Got a lot to cover, so I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. Let's get right into it. First of all, I want to let the lodges know again that the government, the SBA, is doing EDIL loans again. There's another round of funding. Um, there were a lot of lodges that took advantage of this, and that's a good thing. There are still lodges that have not taken advantage of it that could still use that funding, and in the email, I'm going to send the link again to apply for that. There are several lodges with large AR payments or are behind on their loan payments to Moose International. This would be a good time to try to apply for one of these loans. I know I've had a few administrators complain about it and say, well, why should we go and do that? One loan for another. Well, it is at a lower interest rate. Plus, we're trying to get paid down the debt to Moose International. I know a lot of lodges, or I hear administrators and members always talk about the amount of money that they feel the lodges should be given by Moose International. The money just doesn't flow that direction. It's not that Moose International is always wanting more money, but there are things that they're covering that lodges are responsible to pay for that they're not doing. And I'd like to cover that because I've had a few people ask, and I know I've said it before, but I need to say it a couple times a year. So when we're covering that AR payment, and I know we have a few new admins out there, they're like, well, that's just Moose International. We don't need to pay them back. Well, you have to remember Moose International is paying for that risk pool insurance, which is money that Moose International puts out, and we get a discount on that by pulling all of our members together and paying as one big group. So that is an insurance payment that is being prepaid by Moose International, and they want their money back from lodges, which is understandable. There's a certain dollar amount per member that's covering that expense, and Moose International is due that money. Also, when you have brand new members, you're taking that membership money from that new member and putting it in the bank. But then once they've been enrolled into LCL, Moose International is going to charge you that $38 for that brand new member. And that is money that the lodge does owe. So there are things that the lodges need to make sure that they're paying back. So getting one of these government loans would not hurt in the long run. And there are a few others. You might as well get it. It's a good interest rate. They're putting it over 30-year term. Of course, you don't have to take 30 years to pay it back. If you're doing well, most lodges have bounced back pretty well since COVID. And if you bounced back, you can still pay that off in, 5 years or even sooner if you're doing that well. So it's really worth the time to look at that loan. It's a good infusion of cash to maybe do some projects to get some bills paid off and get caught up. I mean, why not take advantage of it? Again, I'll put that link for those for that EDL EDIL loan. I always get it confused and messed up. Something else we need to talk about too. Remember that fellowship nominees need to be postmarked by the 10th of December, so that's not that far away. We will not take anything that is postmarked after December 10th. You cannot copy and photo and email them to me. That we need the original copy with the signatures on it. Also, a problem we're having is it seems that lodge officers and fellows on fellowship committees are talking to people in the lodge about the process. Again, I will reiterate that is confidential. We're not supposed to be discussing it at all with anybody. We don't want it to get back to a possible person who's being considered for a fellowship, and then they think they're getting it, and then when they get turned down for that fellowship, they're going to be upset. We don't want them to know about it at all. Plus, it's always a nice surprise when they end up winning or getting that honor. So just again, no discussing it, period. If there's documentation or proof of someone discussing it, it puts anybody that's a pilgrim or a fellow at risk of losing their pilgrim or fellow or being considered for one in the future. So we need to remember that. Also, when we're putting in those nominations, we have to consider that, you have the minimum requirements on there that they have to hit a certain number. If they're barely just getting to that, I think it's 7, I can't remember if it's 7 or 8. If they're getting that, just that bare minimum, there's most likely they're going to get turned down. There are some very important things on there that we need to consider. If they're not in the 25 club, it doesn't make them look real good. If they've been in the lodge for 5 years and they've not been able to hit the 25 club, then they're not a true fraternalist. They're not bringing in their friends and family in to join the lodge. It shouldn't be that hard over that period to hit the 25 club. You know, if they're only holding an office in the lodge and they haven't done anything for the Moose Legion jurisdiction or for the state or on a district level, those things matter. So if they're not going to help the organization as a whole, we don't tend to think of them as fraternalist, and therefore it's going to hurt their chances of getting a fellow. So we need to remember those things as well. The last thing I want to talk about is dispensations. I know we've been talking about that a lot lately. We have a lot of lodges not applying for them. Again, there is an event guide that was sent out, and I've sent it out multiple times over the year. I'll add that into this email as well. That helps you see if you have to have hall insurance, if you need to get a dispensation. And if you have any questions, it's always an email or a text to me to find out. A good guideline is almost any time you're taking $1 from the public, you probably need a dispensation. You know, short of bingo, things like that are already covered. If you're renting your hall out for, say, a wedding or a business for their Christmas party, those type of things, again, there are certain requirements, and you can get a hold of me and I'll be more than glad to fill you in. But what those dispensations are, that's the chief compliance officer looking and seeing to make sure you're covered correctly, insurance-wise and legality-wise, just to make sure that the lodge is okay for having those events. If you're getting caught, you know, if a lodge is having an event that doesn't have a dispensation and a non-member gets hurt, there's an issue there. So you need to make sure we're filling out those dispensations. A lot of lodges have been doing better since we've been talking about it since convention in Cincinnati about going out and getting them. But again, that's just keep that in your mind. If I'm taking $1 from the public, do I need a dispensation? Do I need to talk to Dan Evans and find out, see whether we need to get one or not? They're really easy to obtain. A couple of good examples is there was an event a lodge was having that required extra insurance that Moose International and your risk pool didn't cover. And the lodge had that insurance in the past and it had expired. So the chief compliance officer said, we're going to deny this until you get the proper coverage. That's just Moose International doing their due diligence to make sure the lodge is safe. And that's why there are dispensations with alcohol and without alcohol. Those are really simple to get, the ones without alcohol. Actually, they're really simple to get either one, but they're just verifying what's going on in the lodge when we're letting the public in, and what's happening there to make sure that you're safe in the insurance realms, financially, things like that. Also, you have to remember that if the lodge itself is not getting the dispensation, say the chapter or the Moose Legion's doing something in your lodge, they have to have permission and get a dispensation also, and that's when they need to be talking to the lodge in advance, and there needs to be better communication going on. Example, there's lots of chapters right now that have done yard sales, craft shows, things like that, not got a dispensation. They can apply for the dispensation, but they need to have permission from the lodge officers first to do anything inside the lodge. So, if a chapter is having an event, say an indoor yard sale, and someone gets hurt and they don't have a dispensation, not just the chapter it's going to get in trouble. It's going to be the lodge, because it's the lodge officers are in charge of that property. So, if the women are having an event like that and they need to have a dispensation, it's on you as the administrator to make sure if they're applying for a dispensation that they get it and they give you a copy and you know they're covered. So just a reminder on that. Other than that, that's all I really have. I kept it under 10 minutes today. Hey, you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye.